Well, I want to present something here, and I swear I don't really want to do this video in some ways because, I know there's me people out there maybe thinking that I'm trying to get views or attention or scare people and it's fear porn, but I'm going to tell you a couple things that really set this record straight on. For instance, I know it's a big question is if there's an economic collapse or there's martial law or something, and I can guarantee you there's going to be a governmental default which is going to create chaos throughout the whole country. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but time's getting pretty short. And I'm going to give you a little update on Trump, other things that he can't exactly be all his rhetoric. So like all people are thinking, well, if he gets elected, everything's going to be fine. Forget it. I think the point of no return is already here. It's just a matter of how hard the fall is going to be. And really, what I want to tell you about is are the police and the military going to protect the citizens? I'm going to tell you flat out no. And I'm going to tell you what my insight is on this because I think a lot of people really don't really get it. They have an idea on something that, and I know I say idea, I'm from New Jersey, New York, but well, here I'm showing the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, but we have all the amendments. The First Amendment, right to free speech, and which we're doing now. The right to Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Fourth Amendment, the right of people to be secure in their possessions, persons, houses, and all that. If there's actually something that there's a nationwide emergency or whatever that happens really severe, and I tell you, I think this is. I'm not really trying to scare people with this. The police are just going to do their job. I swear to God, and whatever their job is going to be whatever they're directed to do. They're not going to think about the Constitution says this or whatever, or they're just going to follow orders. That's what it's, especially the military. I'm going to tell you that right now. Do not think that most of them are going to like say, "Oh, that's you can't. That's I'm against that," because they're doing it already. I mean, if you look at even the prison system in the United States, it's freaking busting at the seams. We have more people in prison per capita in this country than any other country in the world due to the war on drugs. That's or DUIs or whatever. I don't even drink. You know what? I don't drink one drop of liquor. I don't do any drugs, for that's for sure. But I don't even drink one drop of liquor, beer, or wine, or anything like that. Not for religious reasons. Just so these jerks don't have a reason to screw you over. That's really what it is. It's not really for like moral purposes so much, but it definitely is, to tell you the truth. But and also, I figure, what the hell? It's there's so much taxes on beer, liquor, and all that other garbage that I don't give taxes to the system because I feel like getting drunk. I mean, I'm not gonna pay to perpetuate the bullshit that's going on. The military, they're just gonna follow orders, and when they're directed about something, they don't know the whole situation. You know what? Their whole thing is they'll say it's not our job to freaking question why. It's our job to do or die. Pretty much the old cliche, right? Except, we the people are going to be doing the dying, not them. They're going to be well equipped. What really stops them from doing something, the military or the police, don't pay them. They do their job because they get paid. And they realize even if they get hurt or something happens to them, even if the worst happens to them, they get like $400,000 in insurance money. And even if that happened, and more than likely nothing's going to happen to anybody in the military or the police. There's no doubt. That's just how it is. So I'm telling you, like, if there's something whereby there's a harsh martial law that's instituted in the United States, don't count on the military or the police to do anything like to go against it. If it's unconstitutional or something, they're not going to care. I'm going to tell you that right now, man. I notice it's not just that I was in the military or whatever. I just damn well notice how these people think, man. I know it. Now, me personally, well, that's why I'm not in the military anymore. I was actually too qualified for my freaking rank. I could tell you that right now, man. I walked in there with a college degree, went and enlisted, deliberately went and enlisted, because it's like I believed in that cliche, don't call me sir, I work for a living, um, because you know how it is. But me, I would have definitely not put up with the bullshit. One where I would have done something to, really stick it to them bastards, but I have to do it in a sneaky way. There's no doubt about it. Um, and there might be a few people that are doing that, but you're going to have about 90% of the military or the police are going to comply with whatever the orders are to, you know, go against the American people in a time of crisis in this country. And you've seen it with Hurricane Katrina for one too. They're not going to just they're going to do whatever. They'll talk to you really nice, but if you don't comply, they're going to shoot your ass if you freaking resist. So, and I also want to tell you something about, back in 1776. I know they got these ideological pictures that we look at in paintings of what the colonists did, and well, actually, there wasn't too many colonists that were actually revolting. That's another thing. There's only like 3% that are actually revolting against King George and his taxes. But by and large, these people didn't get paid, man. They really were revolutionaries. It was like, if there's a martial order directive by, whoever the president is, even if it's President Trump, I don't trust the guy. And, the real revolutionaries would be the ones going against that because it's wrong. Okay? It's just flat out wrong. And, I really compare the real revolutionaries to, like, well, you look at, some people are not going to like to hear me saying this, but, one of the biggest revolutionaries out there that been, from ancient times was the great Jewish revolt of 69 AD against the Roman Empire. They didn't want to comply with their crap, especially over taxation. And that's usually what the big freaking sticking point is. But in the future, it may be more than taxation. It may be, I don't know what, it could be something else beyond that. How things are going. And they pretty much, even like when you're traveling down the road today, if you have cash on you, the police can ask you, and they do this in practically every state in the country. They'll ask you, do you have cash on you? And they'll take it because the cash may be guilty of a crime. It's another racket. But if you really applied things the other way around, well, I hate to make this almost sound like an anti-police video, but if you really applied things the other way around, you know how they have where somebody says something to somebody else, it's conspiracy to commit a crime, or there's an organization and there's a couple people in the organization that are committing crimes and it's helping the organization to profit. Then you can use the RICO Act against the organization, and that makes that organization a criminal organization. But when you start looking at what goes on, and even just pretty much every police department out there, and I'm talking from experience up like what I know in New Jersey, for instance, even in small towns, not even in the large. I know the large cities are really bad, and I hate saying this, but because it's like good and bad, but a lot of it's bad. But when you have some bad cops, what happens is if you were applying that to a private organization and not a governmental organization, that would actually make that entire organization, in other words, the entire police force, a criminal organization, and also they'd be guilty of conspiracy by just communicating to each other various things about rackets that they got going on. Because I can tell you a lot of the drug traffic in New Jersey and a lot of the drug dealers in New Jersey, they're all hooked in with the police. There was even stuff recently whereby federal authorities went after a bunch of police and state police, I think in Georgia, and they caught them in some kind of sting where, but they're catching like a tiny fraction of people that are actually committing the crimes in the police department. And they make a big deal out of it, like they caught the few bad guys, but it's rampant all over the freaking country. So when people think that the USA is going to be protected by the police and the military in a big emergency. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not. Actually, the colonists that survived, weapons are actually very important because um, you need to have actually the best, stuff there is basically. Um, back in the time, this would have been state of the art in 1776. Today, probably like an AR-15 or a good semi-automatic weapon would be very good with a high-capacity magazine. I mean, anything really. I did make some comments about the civilian version of the AK-47 and the AR-15 Sporter, civilian version. That the AR-15 is better, but anything you got that you're proficient with, that's semi-automatic, that's reliable, is good. It's getting splitting hairs over other stuff, but I also want to talk about something here too because another game they're playing is they're dividing the races in this country left and right. Usually over this Confederate flag is one of the issues, and I've put so many videos out on YouTube about, and I know some people probably don't, and some people maybe if they're black and they watched it, they're probably thinking maybe I got, I'm trying to really help the Confederacy, and in a way I am because I think the Confederacy's gotten smeared with so much stuff that they didn't really what their intention of breaking away was not over slavery in the least. It was over taxation, extremely severe taxation by the North, which was going on for decades. And I don't want to rehash all that, but it was all about taxation. Abe Lincoln taxed when he got in. The taxes went through beyond anything they were before, and they said the hell with it. Um, and reason I noticed because a lot of Confederacy used to etch on their weapons, 1776. That they believed they were fighting the same cause that they were back just 2 or 3 generations back. And I know in my family that was in the Confederacy. 2 and 3 generations back from there, they were in South Carolina, fighting in the Revolutionary War, 1776. It wasn't that much of a difference. I mean, it was like, we're talking, I don't know, maybe 1945 till now. It wasn't that much of a difference. You don't look at it. People don't really realize how close the time frame was from. Well, I guess it was more than 1945 to now, maybe 25 to now or something, 1920 to now, but still 1776 to 1861, less than 90 years away. People remembered what they fought for, and they fought in 1812 also. Um, but what happened in this country though when that war was lost by the South? And I know the issue is slavery. I think slavery would have went away because of machines. The South was. I don't want to even get on the issue exactly right now because that's too long of a video, and I went on other videos. But the um, the thing is, if the South acts, what happened was when the South lost, we really never went back to what we fought for in principles in this country in 1776, which was more than states' rights, but basically, well, I guess that is kind of like states' rights. In other words, a centralized power to freaking dictate to everybody what the rule of law is. In other words, the federal government was constantly overstepping its bounds and authority. Like Abe Lincoln used to suspend habeas corpus left and right, a lot of things like that. But the ones that really sacrificed the most were the Confederates. God, they got clobbered. I mean, like I think 1/3 of them were casualties or dead. Um, Far more casualties on their side with far less troops to begin with. But when that happened, we became a debtor nation forever. We never again really got to a point where we were not a debtor nation. And it wasn't that much. Many years later, 1913, we finally had the Income Tax Act passed, which was actually the amendment to the Constitution, the 16th Amendment to the Constitution, and the Federal Reserve Act passed. And we got involved in World War I, the war to end all wars. We went through the Great Depression, World War II, Vietnam, and here we are getting in modern times, and it's like, we really lost 1776 when the South lost in 1865. We lost 1776. It's done. I think that Karen Huddis is right about that. I mean, I don't like all she says, but um, I realize it from another angle. I know she says some other things, but I don't agree with, but at all. Um, but I want to say something else about the police. Some of the cops out there are really just, um, but they're few and far between in numbers. Like sometimes you'll hear a story about a New York City cop that takes his own money and he goes in a store and he'll buy like somebody is out homeless a pair of boots to wear on their feet when it's cold out, right? Well, let me put it to you this way. That's somebody different. 99% of them easy don't do that. Now, my father, he used to help everybody. And I know one thing. Everybody in my family, whether he's related by blood or not, respected the hell out of him all the way. Because no matter what, people used to think he was getting paid to do all these favors for people or help somebody out. He was not getting paid. He used to always help people out. Now, that's a picture of my father back during the Korean War. He was an MP. This was not directly in the war at the time, but yeah, he was in the war, but he was also stationed in Europe too, and the occupation of Germany. And he was a person that was actually, watching out for the damn, Nazi elements that were freaking still in Germany and stuff too, making sure none of that stuff came about. Um, but let me put it to you this way: that he actually. But if every cop was like him, or everybody in the military was like him, yeah, I'd say definitely you'd have no problem whereby the military and the police could be totally relied upon if, say, the president or some bigwig up in Washington decides to issue a martial law or executive order and violate the constitutional rights of citizens. Well, if every cop was like, or military was like my father, there'd be no problem. But they're not like that. I can tell you that right now. I know they're not like that because I've seen too much. It's not only from my military experience, but it's from, I've kept close ties with a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of stuff that goes on in the police world. It's the few cops that, I mean, I gave you an example of a New York City cop that might buy a pair of boots for somebody that homeless or something. My father would probably bought 100 pairs of the damn things. That's how he was. But he wasn't lazy. I can tell you that right now. And he'd do a favor for somebody, he wouldn't ask for nothing back. Not in the least. That's the way you know. That's how you know for real if a cop or the military will protect your rights. Total quality lip service doesn't mean shit because they're always constantly telling you like, oh yeah, if that really came to it, oh yeah, the officer corps will get together, oh we'll get together. Yeah, bullshit. No, they wouldn't. Because I know that they wouldn't because they basically, even though they don't like it, they'll lick the feet of Bill Clinton when he was president, and if Hillary Clinton becomes president, they'll lick her feet too. They lick anybody because it's a matter of, hey, you know, it's not our job to question politics. We're here as the military. We got to obey orders. But what's all going on in the back of their head? They're getting paid. They want their money. They want their security of benefits, pensions maybe they're building up or whatever the hell they're doing. They don't want to jeopardize that. But if there's somebody like my father who gave money, not just money, but gave of things to people that he spent money on and helped people for real and never took a dime for anything and never said, I wanted a favor back or I'm not going to help you again. Well, that's not what we got in our military or, what's going on today. I mean, yeah, maybe they'll go to some charitable function, but it's all a bunch of show. They buy some toys for tots or some bullshit, but it's all a bunch of show. That's all it is. It's the ones that actually do the job. And, like I said, the Confederate soldiers, somebody, that goes back in my lineage too. Confederate soldiers and also the American Revolutionary War got a lot to go back there directly to my name. And these people, I mean, it's a shame that they're getting so demonized today through the freaking media that could you imagine, all these Confederate soldiers saying, we're going to fight because a few people, 2 or 3% of the people in the South own slaves, and we're going to die on the battlefield because of that. Yeah, right. A lot of times these people weren't even getting paid. I gave the example of the person that's homeless in New York that didn't have shoes. Well, guess what? A lot of the Confederates wore their shoes out right away, and they were walking barefoot marches for like 25-mile forced marches without a complaint, without money, without hardly any food, too. Just barely, they were starving by the end of the war. And do you think they fought to perpetuate slavery for a few rich people in the South? No. That's your proof right there. They were actually fighting for 1776 all over again. And the problem is? They lost. But I don't really think they lost because people that are descendants from them still remember what they fought for, and that's most important. So anyway, just to sum it up, I don't want to make this like a fear video, but I wanted to make sure you really get it clear in your head. Although I wouldn't want to antagonize the police or antagonize the military or anything like that, because they are going to act really cutesy, talk nice, and all that other bullshit. But if they got an illegal order that's against the Constitution by the president, whoever the hell person may be, they'll enforce it under any the conditions that they're told to. They might act nice initially, but if you say no, they're gonna freaking screw you up. That's what's gonna happen. They're not gonna freaking bend the rules or anything. So just got to tell you the bad news because I know some people got it in their head like, oh, the military get together and if it was that good. No, they're not. No, they're not. I hate to say it. Most people in the government is the damn problem. There's too big of a government. It's like you need some government, just like the founding fathers said right from day one. Um, the government is a dangerous servant and a very fearful master. I guess that's somewhere along those lines. But that's it. It's something where you gotta have it, but you gotta watch. You gotta watch. If it starts getting too big, you're screwed. It's almost like a fire out of control. What are you gonna do about it then? Nothing. You're screwed. And like I said, the few people in there that are gems, they're gonna be far outnumbered by the other people out there. And like I said, they're really in there for the money. They're in there for the money. The colonists that fought against the British, they didn't do it for the money. They weren't direct deposit warriors. They were not that. No way in hell. They were not well equipped. The Confederates that fought to, against Northern Yankee aggression, I'll have to put it that way, they were not well equipped. They were definitely outnumbered and under equipped. And on top of that, they still won a lot of battles, even though they were outnumbered. They almost actually won the war, for crying out loud. I should add this on the end. Actually, Abe Lincoln, the only reason he freed the slaves almost 2 years after the war started was because he was trying to create a slave rebellion in the South. That's why he only freed the slaves in the rebelling states, not any of the slave states he had control of. You know, so you just gotta watch because I'm gonna tell you they're all gonna blow smoke up your wazoos about yeah, and I don't know. You can go listen to Alex Jones if you want, but I tell you I think that guy's full of it too. But I'm giving you a heads up on this. I mean, I'm not saying to be confrontational or anything like that. What I'm saying is that you can't count on the police and the military to state, I'm going to go against unconstitutional orders. vast majority will just go along with it, whether they like to or not. They might not like it. They'll consider it dirty business. They'll do whatever they got to do, and because they're in there for getting paid. The few that'll go against it, that'd be somebody like my father would have done. But he's a guy that helps people for nothing. He was a guy that helped people for nothing, many times, many times over many decades. Then that's an indication of a good cop or a good military. But most people don't do that unless it's some little showy function at Christmas or some crap like that. They don't do it on a daily basis. No, not at all.